as our country is preparing for national elections in just over 2 weeks' time, I have 3 observations to address to our Nigerian government and to our INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission. The first is that Nigeria's friends and the international community as a whole are watching the behavior of the federal government and its agencies, including especially the police, the army, and the other law enforcement instruments, to see how far they respect the country's constitution, the rule of law, and their inherent obligation to act impartially and fairly in playing their roles in respect of the elections. From my long experience with international politics, I must warn that no country can be an island unto itself, especially in our increasingly globalizing world. Therefore, our Nigerian government, like all other governments over the world, while of course guarding its sovereignty, should pay heed to the views of the international community. Otherwise, the country will return to the pariah status which it happily exited in 1999 when it once more embraced democracy. My second observation is directed to INEC. INEC had earned deserved compliments for its commendable handling of the last gubernatorial elections in Anambra and Ondo states. But it must be admitted that it attracted criticisms for its conduct of the subsequent similar elections in Ekiti and Osun states. I urge INEC to remain aware of the fact that the credibility of the results of our forthcoming national elections will depend on the level of impartiality and transparency it demonstrates in ensuring that all aspects of the elections are free and fair, thereby making the results to truly represent the will of the Nigerian citizens. Indeed, the image and standing of our country within the international community will be significantly affected by how INEC and the federal government as a whole are seen to behave in all matters relating to the elections. My third observation is on the current deplorable debasement of the sanctity of human life in our country. Last September to the end of November, I was in Harare serving on a high-level commission of inquiry which the President of Zimbabwe had felt compelled to appoint following the death of 6 nationals in a protest that occurred after the country's national elections. The death of 6 persons was considered a national tragedy, and that aroused deep concern throughout the country. But what happens here in our country, Nigeria? We hear and read virtually every day in the media of the killings of people in their 10s, their 20s, and sometimes even more than 20s. And the government and people seem not to be reacting commensurably to the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude with a comment on the general issue of governance. Judged by all the relevant indices, Nigeria today is clearly underperforming and lacking national cohesion as never before. And so, like Cato in the ancient Roman Senate, who, because of his passionate desire to subjugate Carthage, the then arch-rival of Rome, always ended every speech he gave in the Senate with the words, Carthago delenda est, meaning Carthage must be destroyed. I would like Cato, to end these my remarks by once again repeating the view that I have expressed on many occasions, namely that if our country is to succeed on the road to political stability and realization of its rich development potential, it must, by restructuring its present governance architecture, it must return to the true federalism that it practiced in the years before, that this country practiced in the years before the military intervened in our national politics. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.